Welcome to the channel. In this podcast, we're going to be discussing the stages of recovery. We're going to be focusing more on the later stages of recovery, something I don't really talk a lot about in this channel. And in this video, I have some amazing guests. We have mentors from around the world, anxiety recovery mentors from Byby Panic. And I wanted to take a second and introduce everybody. So we have Kaylee. Welcome, Kaylee.
Thanks, Shaan.
And we have Mirka. And we have Cesar. Now, Cesar was our original mentor. He's the first mentor. And now he's had a lot of things happen in his life. He's stepped away from the mentorship, but we thought we should invite him because you're really past the subject in so many different ways. And so we wanted to break it down. But I wanted to take a quick second and just have everyone introduce themselves, really give a brief intro of what your biggest struggles were, your biggest symptoms, and something we don't really do on the channel, which is how long did it take you to get better? This is something I don't share often. So this is going to be a really interesting video. And then we'll break down the nuances of what that was like. So Kaylee, do you want to start?
Will do. Hey, everyone. So I'm Kaylee. I'm one of the mentors. I'm from Toronto, where we are right now. So it's funny because I remember when I first met Shaan and he was like, Kaylee, I'm getting so far out now where I'm starting to forget what recovery was like or what it was like being in it. And I'm starting to get there as well, too.
Yeah.
Where it's like starting to become hazy because, as we'll talk about soon, just that's life after recovery, right? But for me, I fell in 2019. And when I fell in, it was bad. Like I would say my symptoms were 12 out of 10. They were really, really strong. I had so many symptoms. Cognitive, physical, emotional, everything. And I felt like my life was just flipped upside down. I went from being someone who was working, I was in school, I was driving, I had an active social life, to being afraid to leave my house, to not being able to drive anymore without having severe panic attacks while in the car, and just being absolutely miserable. And I struggled for a bit because when I first fell in, like many people, as we hear about, you go to the doctor, you go to therapists, you ask people and everyone's like, oh, I don't know what's happening, just meditate or, take medication or, whatever it is that professional recommends for you. And while, yes, everything has its place and it helps, nothing was, you will get your life back, right? Everything was like, okay, well, but will I get better? Is this me forever? Like, what just happened? It went from being someone completely quote unquote normal to being where I am right now. So it took me some time. And if you watched my video on Shaan's channel, if you haven't, go check it out. My recovery story, I ended up stumbling upon about 5 months into my journey, or falling in, Claire Week's book. And that was the first time I read something that gave me hope. The book's called Hope and Help for Your Nerves, right? And so that was 6 months of me trying to find answers and having really bad symptoms. And then it was 6 months after I read the book of me learning how to respond. And as we always teach our clients, right, learning how to respond is not, I'm going to watch one of Shaan's videos or I'm going to read his blueprint manual and, okay, great, I know what to do. Learning how to respond is a practice. Like any other skill in life, you have to learn how to do it. You're changing habits. You're fighting against your anxiety symptoms and what it's telling you to run from. So it took me, I would say, over 6 months around that time of just learning how to respond. And in that time of learning how to respond, my symptoms were still there. And so it's about a year of me learning, struggling. And once I really got the response down, my second year, my year 2, was me living life, responding, and symptoms were going away in the background. So I would say in total, it took me about 2 years, maybe a little bit more, because as we always teach our clients, even when you are getting better and you're living life, recovery is still going to be up. Symptoms are still going to be up and down because symptoms don't work like how we want them to. Yeah. Your body heals on its own time. So 2.5 years, I would say it took me to go through the entire process of being symptom-free. But it's not to scare you because, like I said, once I read Claire Week's book and I learned how to respond, I got my life back. I was still living my life. And like I always say, like it's really the real transformation happened not when I became symptom free. It came when I was able to live my life while going through this really difficult thing. And I saw how strong I was, and I saw how much it's like really mind over matter, and how I'm able to like, go through this really, really difficult thing, this huge struggle. And look, I'm able to still do what I need to do. So that was where the real recovery happened for me, to be honest. So it wasn't like I was struggling the whole time. But if we're talking about being symptom free, yeah, 2.5 years.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Mirka, and I'm basically in the same boat as Kaylee. It's really hard. I couldn't imagine after I recover that I will forget how it feels, but it's happening because now I'm out for like, let's say it's going to be like 4 years or something like that. And I don't remember how it felt. I know some of my symptoms. I know I was diagnosed with OCD, hypochondria. I had a lot of digestive issues. I had panic attacks all day long, all night long. A lot of heart symptoms, a lot of head-related symptoms, a lot of like just sensations all over the body, like shakes and pinches and needles and burning and cold, a lot of things. And these are the symptoms we talk about. And then we also have symptoms that we didn't dislike as much, so we don't talk about them. So when someone mentions, oh, I had this, did ever anyone had that? Yeah, I had that, but I didn't dislike it, so I didn't even mention it because there was tons of them, right? But now I don't really remember anymore how it felt. Just know, and I know that at my worst, I couldn't leave, not just my apartment, I couldn't leave my living room. My anxiety just got me to like being okay in just one room. That didn't mean I didn't have symptoms there, but it was just the most bearable. My anxiety was the least irritated there. And even like going to a toilet was like, I took like in 30 minutes just hyping myself up to be able to go pee. So it got that bad. And to be honest, I had it easier in a way that when I fell in, I found you pretty quickly. So I didn't have just a book. I had videos. There weren't many of them, but I already kind of knew what to expect a little bit. So it made it easier for me that, even though there was no mentorship back then, I had videos and I knew at least something. So for me, like responding to the physical stuff, learning that, it was pretty quick. It took like, say, 2 to 4 months to really get like consistent with it. After 2 months, I was able to do it finally. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is how I really need to. How does it feel to let it be and not resist? 2 more months to get consistent. But the biggest work for me was dealing with my emotions, learning to respond to my emotions the right way, and the thoughts, because I felt like my head was totally against me. So that was the bulk of the work, honestly. And if I would talk like full recovery, like no symptoms, normal living, 1.5 years, easily. Mm-hmm. But I think that once I started working also on the mental part and the emotional part, I was really living with anxiety and I was not limited. I was not scared anymore. I knew it's going to happen. I didn't know when, but I knew it will. So I would say, again, like Kaylee said, it wasn't like for her like 2 years of struggle. And for me, it wasn't 1.5 years of struggle. It was maybe first like 4 or 5 months of struggle. And after that, the rest, it was just living and being consistent and keeping like correcting myself. Mm-hmm. That was it. So yeah, it takes longer than people think.
Yeah. Cesar.
What's up?
What's up?
Well, I'm glad I went last because I haven't talked about this like in a year.
Yeah.
Like not only not either struggling or helping, but a full year of like not even nothing. No anxiety, just life.
And if I can give some context for our listeners, you were the original mentor. Like when I was like, I need help, you were like the first one. Kaylee came shortly after. You guys kind of started at the same time, but you stepped away because, you were focusing on other endeavors. When was that? That was like
when my daughter was born. So August 2022 last year. So a little over a year now.
Yeah. So it's been about like 14 to 16 months probably since you were in the mentorship. And so, just wanted to give a little bit of a background so people know. So how's it been?
Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah, like I was saying, I was happy you guys went first because I really honestly was trying to remember like when my first panic attack was and how it was to struggle. But it was back in 2017. really calm and just driving. Panic attack started, and from there it just went on for a while. So when I met Shaan was probably 2019. So 2 years later, I read the same books, Claire Weeks, saw the same videos as probably a lot of you guys did. So I knew what was going on, and I knew that that I would get better. But after 2 years, it was like, okay, I definitely, just like Mirka, I had 6 months there where I was really didn't know what was going on, and I was just really struggling, doing the bare minimum, just to get through life, just to pay my bills. If that was fine, I was married, so as long as my wife was okay, I went to work and rushed home because DPDR was my biggest symptom, and I know at home I could handle being like that. Being outside, driving especially, was the most difficult. So fast forward a little bit, 2 years later, maybe a year and a half, I had my son, and that's when I was like, okay, when I have my son, that should give me so much joy that I start to really fully recover. And I didn't. I was still struggling, and it really, thinking back again, it's really kind of sad because my son's there, and I don't feel a connection, and that kind of bothered me. So that's when I was like, okay, I really need to do this for my son, get fully better. So that's when I found Shaan. And again, when I met Shaan, he wasn't really telling me anything new. What made me really want to talk to him and meet him and join his program was when he mentioned coffee. Coffee was something that everyone else was saying, avoid that, which makes sense, right? You don't want to, especially if you don't know what's going on, you don't want to, I guess, make it worse. But once you know what's going on, yeah, of course, have coffee. So that's really what got me to want to work with him. But from there, the program, what really I pay a lot of credit to was just, it kept me consistent. So again, I knew what he was saying, I've heard it before, but he really made sure that I stayed consistent, and that's what really got me to full recovery. So I'm sorry, it's really hard to think how long it took. I would say 2017 was the first panic attack, 6 months there, really struggling. And then after that, once I knew what was going on, probably, I don't know, another year. When the pandemic started? 2020? That's when I started to really see symptoms go away in longer periods, because it'll mess with you. If symptoms are gone, you feel like, hey, I'm good, and then they come back, and that's what really, I think, kept me in the cycle for so long. So if it wasn't for Shaan in the program, I maybe had 2 moments there where, we call them setbacks, where it came back really hard, but thankfully I had him there in the program to kind of remind me, hey, no, you're still good, just keep going. If I didn't have that, I'm pretty sure it would have took me a lot longer to fully recover. But yeah, I would say about 2020, so that's a good, 3 years, almost 4 years. And then really this last year, like I said, once you go really back into life, you kind of don't even think about it, right?
Yeah. I remember your first call. Yeah.
Shaan,
I remember, yeah.
once and for all, officially, how long did it take you?
So for me, okay, so realistically, when did the symptoms fully go away? I can't really give a strong answer there, because I remember even a couple of years on my recovery journey. I remember I was in grad school, and I still remember at those moments, I still had moments where I was having digestive issues, which were my biggest symptoms. For me, what was really difficult was that it wasn't the symptoms, the source of the anxiety would shift. So first it was the symptoms, but then other things happened. I had a surgery, a shoulder surgery, and then I had other life stressors. And so what was interesting for me is that my anxiety did morph. And what would happen is that it would really throw me off. And so I think with recovery, it's so much deeper. And I think I just kept going into this rabbit hole. And every time I was like, okay, I figured it out, I got it. But then there was more recovery left, more recovery left, more recovery left. I think my recovery really was when I realized that there was nothing really unique about what I was going through, especially because I was doing it alone. A lot of the things were presenting itself along the way, and I kind of almost had to figure it out in those moments, because the books are useful, but it doesn't get into the nuances. And I don't think any book could get into the nuances, right? And so I would experience certain things that surfaced up that for us is really normal, right? In the mentorship, we see it really often and we can course correct really quickly. But at the time, it would just be so, awkward and weird and scary at the time that I didn't know how to approach it. And so I would try different things. I would stumble. I'd go back to the original response. And it really just came to what, Kaylee talks about, which is like full acceptance. Whatever it is, just fully accept. Getting to that point took about maybe like 3.5 years. Could I have shortened that time? Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things was just normalizing everything. I think it was always that game, and I see it in the comments, we see it in the mentorship. Is this normal? Is this not? That was my anxiety recovery the whole time. And so, it took me like 3.5 years, and it's crazy. Yeah, life has changed so much, I think. The principles are still universal though. Like, I think what's really interesting about all of us is that we're going in different parts of life now. Like Kaylee, one of the big reasons why we're here in Toronto is because Kaylee just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you. And
so Kaylee just got married. Mirka has been traveling more. Cesar has a family. I am building Byby Panic, like this company, kind of becoming like more of an entrepreneur, like, CEO. And it's really interesting how we're from where we were, right? Like I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't be away from my parents for more than a couple hours without calling them. I was ferociously Google searching my symptoms. Like I could not stop. I really struggled for a year, but I really felt like that year was more like 10 years because I could not do anything. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I definitely couldn't work. Maybe a walk here and there. But like that 1 year, it really felt like 10 years. And then from there to, all the different things we're doing here and all the fun we're having from going to a haunted house yesterday. And, being on this podcast and traveling all the way to Toronto and Kaylee getting married and all of us doing all these interesting things. I think it's really amazing how, so much can change. Right. And, I really wanted to ask Kaylee because, on your wedding, Danny's brothers mentioned something that I thought was really interesting, which was they admired the fact of how many extracurricular activities you have and how much you do. And I've always admired that too. I've always been like, you have so many things going on and you're still so dependable in a way. Could you share a little bit about the contrast from when you were at your worst point to being able to do so many things at once, where even like people that haven't fallen into the cycle are like, wow, you're doing so much?
It's funny because, when you fall in, and I'm sure you all experience this, you're like, what happened, right? For most of us, you might have that trigger that you fell in. Okay, I smoked weed and I fell in. Or, I was driving, had a panic attack and I fell in. That's how I fell in, right? We all kind of know what that instant thing was right before it happened. But for me, looking back on my life of why I fell in was because I was taking on too much. At the time, I was I'm a teacher. So I was a brand new teacher. And teaching as stressful as it is, it's a very, very stimulating job where like there's tons going on, so much to do. I was doing my master's full time. And I had very poor stress management strategies. So I was doing all these things, and like I normally do, as you heard from my brother-in-laws, and I still do, but I didn't know how to manage it. And, fast forward, like I said, like biggest part of recovery for me, the biggest thing that I learned, the most important piece was not, changing my life, but still keeping my life how it is and how I want it to be, but changing how I respond to things. That's, for me, anxiety's biggest teacher. So, for me, it's like, okay, that caused me to fall in. the same thing I'm doing now, but doing it in a way where I didn't have the strategies to know how to respond to it. And now I'm back doing a million things. I'm still a teacher, right? I work with Byby Panic, which is phenomenal. I just went through planning a massive wedding, which is so stressful. I have many hobbies. And all that's changed is that anxiety taught me how to respond to stress in my life and how not to make things beyond my control, my thoughts have more power than they need to. So that's really the big thing for me.
I always felt like that was like a secondary benefit, right? Because I think when someone is in the thick of it, they're just caring about getting better. But then like once you get past that, you're still learning, you can utilize those same principles. And that wedding was so amazing. It was so impressive. And when Danny was like, Kaylee did all of it, I was like, when?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can thank anxiety for that, right?
Yeah.
Because biggest teacher. We always say like, it's tough when you're going through it. It's toughest thing. But as we all know, right, it's through adversity, through struggle that we grow the most. So it sucks, but when you learn the right principles, when you know what to do, right, you get that guidance. It can really be a life-changing thing as you come out of it. So
yeah.
I want to say something.
Yeah, go for it.
You call it a secondary benefit, which, yes, for someone who's in the thick of it, it is a secondary benefit. But once you recover and you look back on your life and what got you in, you realize this is not a secondary benefit. This is and always was a must.
Yeah, agreed.
Because you have to learn to respond to things, because things in your life will be happening. And I learned that I was stressing myself out, that I was creating a lot of pressure, stress, and anxiety, not just with big things, but with the smallest things in the past. And I had to learn not to do that. Like if I was here, like me 6 years ago, for example, like remember the first day we were walking a lot, Cesar's watch said like 17,000 steps or something like that. And I got the bloody blisters because I just picked the wrong shoes for too much walking. And if it was me like 6 years ago, you will hear it today. You would still hear like, I was so stupid. I picked the wrong shoes. Now I have blisters. I can't go anywhere. This sucks. Why did I make a better decision? I would do that. And what I did this time, I was like, hey, do we have some Band-Aids?
Yeah.
And I was doing this really even with the smallest things in my life. And then I realized there was a lot of resistance in it. Just like Kaylee, sometimes I took too much, but then I was resisting the fact that I took too much and it was hard. Or sometimes I was slacking, I didn't do much, and then I was hating myself for not doing much. I was always resisting whatever was the current situation. And it's the resistance that kind of tells my brain, like, because what you're resisting, if not danger, why would you resist anything that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, you call it secondary benefit, which for anyone that comes in and they just want to get better, they are deep in the cycle. Yes, it's a secondary benefit, but in the end, you see, this is the must. This is a lesson that your brain and body are trying to teach you. They are screaming for help. Once you fall into a cycle and you have all these symptoms, that's your brain and your body screaming for help. It's like, you're abusing me and you need to open your eyes and do something about it.
I think the biggest thing for people to understand is that this isn't work where you're 6 months or you're a year or a year and a half and then the work stops. The work keeps going, right? The progress though is there. So when people are like, well, how long did it take you? Define like, what's the end goal here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree 100% on what you're saying. It's like the work is still there. The benefits are still there. You're going to have stressful things happen in your life.
Yeah.
I'm convinced the more things you do, the more things aren't going to work your way and the more stress you're going to deal with. And it's just part of the game. And I think a lot of people can't even handle that. So it's like, just don't even handle stress because, you'll make a mess out of everything. But I think if you really want to do things that are important to you, you're going to have to learn these skills. And it's skills that you keep learning. I'm noticing personally that I'm getting more, I feel stretched every time. I feel, whenever we're building, once that's built, it's on to the next thing. And each time it's still scary. And it's still the same principles. We'll figure it out. We'll do it. the stressful things happening, that's happening, you know, trying not to let it get to me personally. You still see it happen,
Yeah.
which is really interesting, right? But I think, yeah, it's work in progress.
Nobody here, I wouldn't say nobody here is a zen about everything. That's not the goal. The goal is to be self-aware enough to see when you're doing it again and be like, hey, this is pointless. Like, give it up, give up the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the call last week and we were talking about this very thing about, you know, life situations and how we respond to them. And I said, hey guys, like, I'm not a monk. Like, yes, like I am much better at responding to my stress because of my anxiety, but I'm still not some monk sitting there just going through life with everything bothers me. Like, life is stress.
Yeah.
Right? Stress is life. You're not human if you don't have things going on in your life, if you're not busy, if things happen, life happens, right? And, you know, I'm still working on things. It's a never-ending journey, but you don't have to be perfect at responding to get better.
Exactly.
Like, at no point in my journey was I perfect at responding, but I was always doing my best, and I'm still doing my best, and I'm still, like Mirka said, being self-aware of where my faults are, where I need to work on things, and working on it. Because with any habit as well, too, habits take time to change.
Yep.
You're not going to overhaul it in a year, 2 years, even 5, 6, 7, 10 years, right? It's, you know, life's a journey in that way as well, too. So
I feel like habits take a longer time to change than the symptoms going away, like way longer. I think I still have habits I'm working on, actually. I haven't had symptoms for, 3 years. I still have habits.
When I was coaching, I used to say it all the time, like, this is the most stressed I've ever been, but I'm also the happiest. And it's still true today. Like, you know, by the time this podcast comes out, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And when I was struggling, I had like a $300, $400 rent, no kids,
Yeah.
no worry in the world, but I was so miserable because I was too focused on my symptoms. But now, you know, 3 kids, gonna have 3 kids. You know, this anxiety, stress is still there for sure. That's never gonna go away, right? Now it's just like, hey, don't put that in your mouth, or hey, get down from there. But I'm not focused on it. I don't know. I mean, Cesar from 5, 6 years ago, I don't know how he would handle, like, he'd be like, what are you doing? Like, how are you handling all this stress right now? But it's true. It's just, you need stress to grow and get better. So, definitely happy that I went through all that because it prepared me for the life I'm living today.
I have this funny story. A year ago, I was in DC. There was a mastermind, and my mentor was there. And the Byby Panic had grown a tremendous amount at that point. And there were still some things to fix. And I started panicking because I thought this might actually be the end of Byby Panic in a weird way. I don't know if I really shared this with you guys, but there was this moment where I was like, I don't know if we're going to be like, I don't know if this is working really well right now, but I don't know if it's going to work forever. Or like the goal is like, you know, for this to be something that keeps growing. And he looked at me and he says, you know, you went through anxiety and you came out of it. Like, why are you so scared here? And I was like, this is different. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. And he told me, Shaan, what feels like you're feeling like everything is very overwhelming. Like you're a bucket and water is spilling. There's going to be a point where this is just going to feel like a drop in the bucket. You're getting stretched right now. And he told me something that I still tell the members right now. He says, you're feeling stretched. Feeling stretched is, you're going to feel uncomfortable when you're getting stretched, but you'll build resiliency out of this. And then you'll have these issues surface up later and it won't hit you the same way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this guy's talking to me like I'm on a group call. And this guy's, you know, like he didn't really deal with anxiety, but you know, he was a mentor of mine. And I think that's honestly true. I think even outside the anxiety realm of how you feel, things happen in life and you're gonna keep feeling stretched. And I think the most important thing to understand is what's your relationship with feeling discomfort. And I think if you can nail that piece down, I think that is going to help in every aspect. This idea of, can you have 2 different opposing things happening at the same time? And can you deal with the paradox of that? Can you deal with the discomfort of that? And that I feel like is like one of the more ultimate goals of what we're going through, right?
I was gonna say that's essentially what we're getting everyone to do when they're trying to recover from anxiety. You
Yeah.
essentially have to get, as we always say, comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's foundational for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, because in that moment a year ago, and it was literally a year ago. I was literally in GC a year ago. I made a map of like, okay, here's how we're gonna figure it out. And he was like, "Are you confident this is gonna work?" I'm like, "No." And he was like, "Then what are you gonna do?" And I said, "Just gonna go into the unknown and let it be then. And if this wasn't meant to be, or if this didn't work out, then it's fine. It is what it is." And I got so connected with the company. I feel like Byby, it kind of turns into your child in a way. Never had a child, but like, I don't know if I should say this. I have a dog, but like when you put so much energy in it, there's like, you want to keep it sustained. And so when, there was a moment where I had to let go of like, hey, it is what it is. You put in your best work. Now let it go. It was that skill that, I learned from anxiety that I felt like I might have not even used for a while. And, it was a humbling moment, because it was like, you're teaching people this, even you're having difficulty right now, even though it's outside, even though it's a different realm, the content is different. We always say content doesn't matter. It's still the same thing.
That's what I want to say, because you said this is different, but like I kicked into call mode and I was listening to you, and in my mind I was like, oh, so basically you don't know what's going to happen and it scares you. It's the same pattern. Like, what do you mean this is different? It's not.
Yeah. And I think it's easy to fall into that, right? And so I think it's the same principles. And I wanted to quickly talk about just the first few stages very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Mirka, do you want to kind of break down like the stages of recovery, like the first few?
Do we remember them? Like at the beginning, obviously, you don't know what's happening, right? You're in the thick of it. It's like the worst thing ever. You're suffering. You want to get out. Then, you start learning and you start understanding. I think understanding is a big part when you understand what's happening and why. Then, once you understand what is happening and why, of course, with that, you learn the solution. So basically, you learn that, okay, so I was behaving, responding, reacting. I was reacting in this way, and that caused the symptoms, the sensitization, the anxiety. Okay, so now I have to start behaving this way. So I'm going to start teaching my brain to chill out, and go the other way, go back to baseline. So that's like the first stage. You're really, really bad, and then you start understanding. After that, I would say there's a long period of just keep going, rinse and repeat. It's the same thing, and try to stay as consistent as possible. Just learn to respond properly. Once you get the response down, I think it's the time where people start to focus on life more. They give it more importance. They start increasing the priority of the daily life and decreasing the priority of anxiety and symptoms, recovery itself. And, after certain time, which as we learned today, like it can really take a long time, you just keep doing the same thing and you make life more and more of a priority. And one thing I see that people have in common, once someone recovers fully, they usually, like you, they are not able to tell you when it happened and how, because at that point they don't really care. Life is too important. Things are too important. You just know you need to keep responding, and when it goes away, it will. And also, I think what sometimes throw people off, which happened to me, even when I recovered fully, I didn't realize that for a couple months, my body, or a few months, can be quite a period, my body and my nervous system will be a little more sensitive, not sensitized, but sensitive. That means, example, when I recovered, 6 months after that, something that would still get me to that really shaky and overwhelmed and sweaty feeling. That's full on panic, but you felt it. 2 years later, I don't even flinch. So I feel like people sometimes get really thrown off that they are basically recovered, but they have these little sensations or little tiny moments, but they make it into, oh, I'm still not there. This is a setback incoming. It's not. You're still a little bit sensitive, but it doesn't mean you're not fine. Just keep doing the same thing. Don't go back into fixing what you used to do, right? you get way better. Maybe you were even there, but then like thing like surgery, this and that, and you felt certain things because your nervous system was still a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more reactive, but you let it like threw you back into that, like, what is happening? Why still? What's wrong?
Yeah, it's understanding that, like, even with people that haven't fallen in the cycle, they're gonna have good days and bad days. They're gonna have days where they didn't sleep enough and they're gonna feel a little bit off
Oh,
the next day.
yeah.
I think sometimes anxiety sufferers, they get so caught up in, I should always feel good all the time, and if I don't, then something, like, I need to adjust something.
Yeah, that's the biggest crap I ever. Yeah,
And
but
it's like letting go of, like, you know, hey, people have good days, people have bad
Bad
days, you know.
Yep.
Um,
And I think this whole thing of symptom-focused recovery,
yeah.
right? When we look at symptoms as the only marker of whether I'm getting better or not.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like we always teach people in the program, there were times when I was responding perfectly fine and my symptoms would still be shouting at me or screaming at me, right? Like our bodies, as long as we're, you know, like Mirka said, like, you know, even towards the end, symptoms were gone, but it was still sensitive. She still felt things here or there. Like our body is still healing. And it takes time for it to fully get back to baseline. And it's okay if symptoms are going to be there throughout that. And it will be there throughout that. I'm going to be honest with you. And as long as we are responding and our focus is in the right place, which is on life and, you know, getting back to it, symptoms will go away. I think that's why as well, too, like you said, like we don't know when we got better exactly. I can tell you a general ballpark as I did just now, but I can't give you a date. And that's because your body very gradually, like afterwards, when you get back to living, you're responding well. Your body is doing the work in the background gradually. But some days, you know, you didn't sleep well and it might be angry at you, or a life stressor happens and it might pop back up, or even for no reason, it pops back up. And as long as you keep your mindset away from being symptom focused and on recovery and what we teach, you can go through all of those things and be on that path still to get to that place where eventually one day you won't have any symptoms at all and you'll be back to normal completely, right?
And I also think that one big thing is that people forget, just like when we recover, we forget how bad it was. People, once they fall in, they forget that the life before wasn't amazing and symptom free. It's like, sometimes it happens, right? You don't eat enough, you have a stressful day, and then you go, like, you go into gym. On top of that, can you be dizzy? Is it normal? Or is it a symptom of anxiety? No, you can be dizzy. You didn't eat too much, you had a stressful day, you're at the gym. You can be dizzy. Or sometimes you just don't get sleep, like something happens throughout the night, something wakes you up. And can you be kind of emotionally off the next day? Is it normal or is it anxiety? No, it's normal. Like, look at babies when they don't get their sleep. I mean, Cesar knows this, right? They're cranky.
Yeah.
That's because, we are tired, we have we have worse emotional self-regulation. It's normal. And I think people forget that. I think people think once they fall in, it's like, I need to go back to perfect, feeling great at all times. No weird, no flinches, no itches, nothing, not a single heartbeat, off. But that's not something that will happen. Like, we are not a machine. And we never were. It's just like we forget. People suddenly, when they are in the thick of it and everything is so bad, they imagine that life before was so amazing. Every day they felt like, cloud nine, full of energy and happy. But that was never the reality. That's fake.
Yeah.
That's fake. And
you
so
wouldn't
you
want it
can't
like that.
try to get back to it because it never existed.
I wanted to ask Cesar, do you find a lot of these, because you've been kind of disconnected for a while, like you've been, raising a family and focusing on, life in general. Do you have a tough time relating to a lot of this now?
Yeah, honestly, you guys are good. The way you guys explain things, I don't know if I can. I know it'll come back, but yeah, it's just I haven't really talked about anxiety since the last call. I think the last call I took was the day my daughter was born. I just popped in real quick, and but the memories are coming back. How I used to feel. Or my actual timeline, but honestly, physically how it feels, I don't know. I mean, stress, yeah, of course I'm stressed. Like, I have 3 kids. I'm trying to be successful in 2 different areas. I'm trying to be the best husband I can be. So yeah, it's stressful, but it doesn't take over my existence anymore. I guess is the best way to put it. Like, okay, I'm stressed. What can I do to be better? Better husband, better father, right? Symptoms like DPDR. I mean, I don't know. It always felt, like I said in the past, like kind of being drunk, right? So when I have a couple drinks, I don't know. It's just, as you can tell, it's kind of hard to explain how it felt because it's been so long.
By the way, I don't take the group calls. We mentioned this.
Yeah.
I have a tough time too. Now,
Yeah.
like talking about it because I don't take the group calls anymore or the one-on-ones. Like I'm focusing on supporting the team.
Mm-hmm.
I have difficulty, and I noticed that when I film YouTube videos, I fumble more. I like need more pauses. I need to think things through because I can't talk. Like I haven't been coaching them. I'm not in the front lines like that. Again, like Kaylee and Mirka, and even I'm having a hard time like connecting.
Yeah,
now.
I think if someone came up to me and asked me for help, I'd be pretty short. Like,
you
just gotta do this, and you'll be fine. Give some time. So
just stop stressing out.
Yeah.
But no, I get it. I get it exactly. I know exactly.
It's pretty funny because I when I joined the mentorship, I was pretty much at the tail end of my own recovery.
Yeah.
When I started helping, and so it was literally those years of me with my symptoms, then me feeling better, and then going right into helping people.
Yeah.
So I always wondered, Cesar, to be honest, like if I wasn't doing this, like would I think about anxiety? Because I think about it at work only, really.
Yeah.
But I wonder what I would be thinking about if I didn't. And go back to my wedding, it's funny because for the past week or so, like since the wedding, I've been thinking all about that. And even on my wedding day, like anxiety didn't cross my mind.
Yeah.
I even saw you guys and I'm like, oh, look, my friends. I didn't even think about like what we do, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine it's like that, but it's cool to hear. So
yeah, I mentioned like I'm the only coach that really left anxiety behind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you just go back to living. And I know we say that, but as a coach, you have to kind of bring yourself back and talk about it to help. But really, there's bigger problems than how you feel.
Exactly.
And I know that sounds bad, right? Because I know you guys are struggling. But you should look forward to that. You should look forward to like, hey, oh yeah, a couple,
Well, I think about it like, Shaan running this amazing company, right? That's stressful. Or Cesar, like you have a wife and a family to take care of. Like your feelings in certain ways don't matter at times because you have things to do, right? So yeah, I just thought of that because like even now, like with anxiety, we're teaching you how to put your feelings aside, not to ignore them, right? We're never ignoring, but we are recognizing that feelings are temporary things. And just because you feel a certain way, you don't have to let that take over everything and engage with that. So like with kids, I imagine, or even with running this company, right?
Yeah. Because it's like, it's so much more beyond me, right? Like we have payroll and we have other people that are working on the, in Byby Panic and they have kids. And so there's like a lot of pressure. And yeah, I mean, it is very stressful. It's also the most, besides anxiety recovery, probably the most like spiritually like evolving thing that's happened for me. And I can imagine that being, having kids as well. Where, you're just constantly growing. You're constantly feeling stretched. And it's just getting comfortable with feeling stretched.
Yeah, I say I don't think about anxiety, but what I learn on how to get out of anxiety, I mean, I probably use it every day, honestly.
Exactly,
And I'm excited too. I just came to my head right now to teach my kids that because no one taught us that, right? So the fact that I'm able to pass that on, I'm really thankful that I went through what I went through.
That's actually a really great segue because I wanted to talk a little bit more about, I was trying to pull up the stats while you were talking, but I couldn't pull it up, which was the World Health Organization. Kaylee, I don't know if you might know the stats, but they're projecting what's going to happen with mental health and it's not looking good. And I wanted to talk about that. The World Health Organization talking about how mental health is, basically a pandemic. And like I say, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but it's going to happen more and more. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that and what you guys feel.
Yeah, I'll start. So, I mean, even being a teacher, like working with teenagers, you see it, right? And I just think back to like I fell in 2019 and I had a hard time navigating the internet. and finding good information about what I was going through and how to get better. And now I think it's even worse. Like, it's just so much online. People are so connected to their phones. And there's just so much going around and not the right ways to manage things. And unless you like know how to sift through information, it can be challenging. And I think just in general, like, you know, as we teach in the program, like our brains can't discern the difference between a real threat and a psychological threat. So if we are constantly telling our brain something is wrong, like Mirka said, right, it's going to physiologically react like something is wrong. And if we're constantly being bombarded by stuff online, and oftentimes it's bad news as well too, because that's what sells, that's what gets clicks. And we're not getting access to the proper resources, right? It can be really hard and challenging to navigate. So yeah, like I see it, and it's scary in certain ways, but I also feel empowered with what we're doing as well, because likewise, as the internet can be challenging, it's also a channel to spread good information. And that's why really, Shaan, like why I ended up in your Facebook community at the time, right, was because I saw that very thing. Your videos weren't out yet when I first fell in, so I didn't come across them. When I started feeling better, I'm like, okay, let me, pandemic happened. I had some free time as well too.
Yeah.
I started looking back into it, and Shaan's video came up. I'm like, wow, the first person who's actually talking about how to get better. Like, I have to, see what's up, and going on your community and just like helping. So I think, there is a pandemic.
Yeah.
There is challenges, but I also think it's also a great time and place to make a big difference. Yeah. And I see you doing that, and which is why I'm still here and part of it, despite my busy schedule. So,
yeah. What do you think, Mirka?
I mean, I don't want to say anything that would get me canceled for sure.
For sure.
For sure. But the thing is, like, yeah, our brains just weren't built for this lifestyle we have now. Yeah. As Kaylee said, like, for our brain, real threat or perceived threat, there is really no difference. And if we don't know how our brains work, then we easily get into resistance because we don't understand, like, why am I having all these worries? Well, your subconscious mind takes everything you read and hear and experience, or friend of their friend experiences, and your brain kind of saves that. And it's like whenever you're going into a situation, your brain is designed to just point out possible dangers because that's what keeps you safe. Just, hey, just for your awareness, FYI, this could happen. But because, like, before, as I was working with our ancestors, what was the source of information you had, right?
Yeah.
Your village, right? And like 2 hills around that, and that was it. Now you're 6 years old, you turn on your computer and you know who died, where's the war, what is happening, what's bad in your food, and all these things. And you're feeding it into your brain constantly. So, and that's not a problem. And it's not even a problem your brain was going to come up with these, like, hey, careful here, careful there. That's not a problem either. That's what's been designed to do. But how we respond to it is a problem, or rather how we react. And because emotions follow thoughts, we feel all sorts of emotions we don't like. And another thing that's like common for this day and age is the instant gratification, trying to feel better, never accepting anything, because like anything that's just slightly uncomfortable, I can't accept it. I need to get rid of that. And there it is. The resistance to your own thoughts and your own feelings. You're creating danger that's not there. You're creating it completely in your head. Emotions are there to be felt and validated and left alone. They are just like soundtrack to your life. They shouldn't dictate what you're going to do. They're just telling you how you feel about the situation. That's it. But when you're trying to get rid of emotions, like, I'm sad, I shouldn't be sad. Try to get rid of it. Well, if something happened that is like valid to make you sad, why you think you shouldn't be sad? Yeah. If you're thinking about a sad thing, why would you fight the sadness? You know? And I think people need to start learning that. And unfortunately, what I see is the exact opposite. Anyone online or a day in life, everyone is constantly offended by something. Feelings are way too important because we're not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. And like, we are constantly teaching people that feelings are the most important thing you have. And that's like, there's the resistance and there's the constant like coping and navigating ways so we don't get touched by anything. Because like, this is our Like, this is the little bubble I want to live in of my feelings and thoughts, and I need to keep it like nice and fluffy and pure. It's not working like that. And the more we try to do that, the more issues with mental health we will actually see. Because in the past, you used to see people that had like anxiety or certain types of nervous system sensitization, like be it PTSD, you know, anxieties, OCDs, and stuff like that. You saw it with people that went through actual like hard traumas. Nowadays, it happens still, of course, but we see more and more people that never went through any trauma. Nothing. Their lives were so easy. But suddenly, you know, they encounter their real life and someone tells them no. And then it kind of explodes. So you see more and more of people that actually had it quite easy. And to be honest, my own anxiety happened. Yes, I went through crap when I was young. But my own anxiety, when I felt it and when it kind of built up, my life was, I think, the best I had it the whole time.
Yeah.
I just didn't have things to worry about that were more important. And I went kind of too deep into my moods and my thoughts and my feelings. And I built it from there a lot. And combined with my already like habits of resistances to small discomforts, it just ballooned out. But it really happened at the point of my life where I didn't have more important problems. So everything was
helped
good.
out. Because I pretty good childhood too. And everyone just wants to be comfortable and feel comfortable all the time. So the ironic part is that the discomfort is what's going to make you stronger. So
exactly. But when you
everyone's
avoid
scared
that,
to feel, discomfort. And it's hard. I mean, still today, I know that stress is good for me, but I have the thoughts still like, I wish I didn't have to do this or deal with this. Why can't I just be rich or something? But then it's just like, well, that's not the life I have. So let me.
Dude, my mood every morning for these past 4 days, because spoiler alert, the water in our Airbnb, it's not up to my standards. It's freaking cold. So every day I'm like, do I want to go dirty or am I just going to like suffer for the 5 minutes here?
Yeah.
Well, I think like you said too, Cesar, about teaching your children, right? And like what you're mentioning, people just don't understand. And, you know, in our programs, the first thing we do is we get you to understand how the brain works, how your body works, that interconnection, and how your reactions and your responses to your thoughts and emotions impact that and impact your anxiety. And it's just a knowledge thing. Like Shaan, you and I always talk about like, you know, what are the bigger visions, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do we want to go with this? And for me, it's like, I would love, like, just like Claire Weeks, right? Or just like what we're doing here is just like to educate people on, you know, how your brain works and how your body works and take care of it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had somebody ask me, it's like, so what is Byby Panic? Are you guys coaching? Are you guys like what kind of like space? You guys therapy? You guys on therapy? What are you? And I had a hard time defining. I always do, but I kind of nailed it down to, if we're anything, we're truly an education company. I think if we were really anything, if we had to really silo ourselves, it's education. And I think with everything going on in the world that I'm seeing from the unique perspective that we have, I think the biggest issue is, I think the true education is understanding the mechanics of your mind and who you are. I think as kids, we're taught how to memorize things, regurgitate things, and manipulate certain things, but we don't understand the tools that we have. And I think humans, we have the greatest tool of all, which is our intellect, and we suffer it because we don't know how to use it. And then when I see what's happening on the internet, and it's very easy to manipulate in the internet. You know, social media companies have figured out, if you want people engaged, what's the number one emotion you want to instill? Outrage. Yeah. And fear. Yeah.
Right. Because that's what gets clicks for advertisement.
Yeah.
And money.
And so for me, I mean, if you can get manipulated like that and not even be aware of it, I mean, you're a slave. And so, you know, I don't think having Google helped anxiety go away. I think it made it worse. And so Google was a great tool, but until you know how to use it, until you know how to use the tool, it doesn't matter. Like you'll break it. And so sometimes for some people, it's just better not to. It's like having a car. If you don't know how to navigate a car, if you're pressing the brake and the accelerator at the same time, just, just turn the car off and you can pretend you're doing something, but really, I don't see that changing with everything going on. I think in a weird way, I think we can talk about this now, is with COVID. I think when the world shut down, people freaked out. And I think for the first time, they had to learn to deal with discomfort. I think they had, for the first time, to deal with something that had a lot of nuance, right? It wasn't clear, black and white. It wasn't simple. And sometimes our brain wants simple. It doesn't want nuances. And so until people really learn how to use their minds, understand how to do that, I think the world is built, honestly. I think it's an economy. I think it's, that's advertisers and social media influencers, like they cater to, people's most, I don't know how to say it, but like their impulses quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see that changing. I just see tools becoming more and more powerful, but I don't see us as humans evolving. I think with everything that's going on with AI right now, all the revolution, it's still in its infancy in a lot of ways. But how much do we use it internally in the company for different things, right? And so I see a lot of investment happening there. I still don't see a lot of the investment happening in the human consciousness side of getting to know who you are. And I think until that changes, we're just getting more and more powerful tools. And then at what point do we self-destruct in our own way? And so I see mental health becoming, more of a crisis.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, on that point as well, too, in our program, we talk about the first couple stages. We really emphasize that and get people to really know how the brain works, body works, how to respond, how anxiety works. We also talk about the after as well, too, right? And with technology, for example, or how we're utilizing it, what does self-care look like? Or what does life after anxiety look like? And how do we cultivate habits and skills and lifestyle factors that are conducive to a positive life and well-being beyond the mental as well, too, right? And like I always say, we are very busy people. We have a lot going on as we do. And we have, if not more stress now. And we're able to navigate that a lot better. But I also think it's important to mention just like where you spend your time and your energy as well, too. And
that's exactly it. Because as he was talking about like clicks, internet outrage, right? I just had the nastiest flashback because I was the keyboard warrior. Like I would argue for hours and hours with someone about a topic, and it felt so important. And
I
but
can
you don't
picture
understand.
Mirka doing that too.
I didn't want to say
stressed,
it, but
guys. I was physically stressed, like typing my arguments and looking for arguments to explain them why they are stupid. But I felt it physically. I was emotionally invested, and I felt like physical effect of that stress happening just by typing with someone who I didn't know who they were and where they were.
Now you're using your
And
powers for good.
now even when I see a discussion, heated discussion, and I feel that sting of oh my gosh, this is stupid, but I'm automatically I don't even think about it. It's not worth it. I glance, I read, I chuckle in my mind, and I move on. I made it unimportant. But before, because I was choosing to invest myself in it over and over again, it felt like the most important thing in my daily life. Just be online and fight with people and argue about all the stuff. It's and now you said it, and I'm like, how so stupid.
Well, no, I mean, even now, I chuckle at it because my mind does the same thing. I'll read all the YouTube comments, Shaan, thank you so much. Shaan, you helped. Don't feel like engaging one person, right? It's this little thing.
Yeah.
I think you're a scammer. I think you're just, why are you doing this? You should be helping people, and all these, and that's the only one I want to respond to.
But you don't anymore.
I don't, but I know how the mind works, right?
Yeah.
It focuses on the negative. It's that's the one I want to react with. And it's no, just leave it. It's cool. And it's interesting to look at, right? And I think it's important not to be intellectually lazy in today's day and age, even emotionally lazy. And just really looking at the complexities of certain things. And I just think the world has gotten more complicated, and really developing those tools and skills because I see the world getting more and more complicated. I was reading this thing that, 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, there was a lot of wisdom in the older generation.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't know where the next 10 years is going to be. In fact, our parents, even ourselves, we don't know where the direction is going, how much the world is going to change. And so a lot of the wisdom that we had in terms of direct skills are not, they don't apply.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of uncertainty that's coming. How do we navigate through that? How do we deal with the nuances and the speed of change? And I think that naturally brings anxiety to people.
Oh, yeah.
And
Brain hates uncertainty.
Yeah.
Uncertain means potentially dangerous. The funny thing is, your brain is more likely to choose known suffering over the potential of feeling better just because there's unknown in it.
We see it all the time, right? The same pitfall of, choosing what's comfortable over doing the difficult thing to get to the other side.
Yeah.
Right? So, but yeah, totally, right? And I think going back to your mental health question, which is where it all started from, right, is that the world is changing, right? Like, who would have thought AI would be writing essays?
And so well. I always thought it was the blue collar, like it was like the mechanical stuff.
Right.
And it's able to write copy. And I use it to write YouTube thumbnail titles or YouTube titles. I'm like, hey, here's my YouTube title, come up with different variations. And I almost use it every time. And I mean, it's able to be creative. A lot of cognitive things that we wouldn't assume. I mean, it's picked it up. And I think it kind of shocked everybody.
Yeah.
I look at that as, well, how is that going to be with anxiety recovery? We had Google searching, will AI make things better? Will people be able to get answers quicker? And I don't think so. Because I think it fundamentally comes down to the user, not the tech, not the instrument. And so I don't know. I didn't see Google helping in a way, although we could say it kind of did because it helped us find each other.
Right.
But can you decipher misinformation from information? How do you know? How is that going to change with AI?
Well, I think it goes back to, too, and we see it all the time, and we've mentioned it already, is that, like Cesar, right? We can read the books, we can watch the videos, we can ask whatever AI bot there is, but it is very nuanced, and it is very personal to every one of us. And we can't erase that, right? Like, all of our experiences, yes, they were the same, right?
Yeah.
Same thing we were doing,
Very
right?
different.
Maybe, but they were different. And I think that's one thing that we're losing with technology is that personal. Right? That connection. And it's funny because the number one thing with our program of why it's so successful is the group calls. It's community. It's that connection with other human beings. Made possible through technology, of course, which is the benefit of it. But it's human connection at the core of it. And people who understand, people who care and want to help. Because one thing I can say that each and every one of us are here because we care about mental health, about well-being, about education, about helping others not go through what we went through and making it easier for them to get to the other side, right? We're all here for the same purpose and the same reason.
What do you mean? They told me there will be cake.
We're at 3, everybody.
So, like, at the end of the day, I think that's so important is being able to talk to someone else about what you're going through and having that community piece for anything. Like, even again, back to my wedding, like, it's the energy of other people. It's the connection of people. It's the coming together.
Can I tell you guys something really funny? Actually, this was really interesting. Eddie, who's one of our enrollment coaches, he was in Austin. We went to grab lunch a few days ago, the day before I came to Toronto. And he was telling me, he's like, Shaan, I read this article. I want to send it to you. And I was like, send it to me. He told me about it. I thought it was brilliant. And they did a study. It was a meta-analysis of different therapy modalities. So CBT, sorry, not that, please. YouTube, don't
You've been in
monetize
Toronto
me.
for 2 years. All the stores.
All the dispensaries. CBT, ACT, and then there was a few other modalities. And they did a meta-analysis of which one works the best for anxiety. ACT? What do you think? ACT? What do you think? Between the different modalities.
CBD.
Cesar or no?
Wait, Shaan, maybe explain what what.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
ACT is acceptance commitment therapy. Commitment therapy. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a few other ones. I haven't read the article
And the
yet.
CBD?
CBD, I don't even know what that stands for. Oh God, YouTube is like demonetized. But the one that did the best, they showed, was none of them. They were all pretty much the same. Do you know what was the factor that made the difference of what had the best outcomes?
The actual therapist.
Not quite. Another guess?
The willingness of the person to kind of...
Not quite. That's not what Eddie told me yet.
Okay.
Is it the fact like it's just one-on-one, so there's not really things to like because what I give a lot of my credit to my recovery is the fact that I was able to see other people, new people come in and kind of compare myself like, I used to be there, and even though I feel like crap right now, I'm way better.
Caesar's kind of on it.
Yeah.
It's relatability. How much do you feel the person understands what you're going through and the relatability element?
So I was kind of right too.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It was actually one of the biggest thing is like, did you feel understood? Did you really feel like the person understood? And Eddie says, he's like, that's like what makes Byby Panic. He's like, yo, that's what makes you guys like rock stars. When I bring somebody in and I know they're going to be okay, it's because when I hear their story and I'm like, oh, dude, they're like all these other people, they're going to be just fine. And so it's a big part is that relatability element. But I think that goes back to what you were saying, Kaylee. It's greater connectivity doesn't mean greater connection, right?
Yeah,
having that connection, but also what I found is, when I was struggling, even if you connect with people, that might still, you can see other people struggling, but then we've seen this happen just from forums outside of Byby Panic. But when you have people that are suffering together, it can turn a little victim-ish, where like people are like not getting better and they're kind of self-loathing in a weird way. So I think it's
energy, right? Energy is infectious. So if everyone is just in the same mindset, in the same place of not understanding and just complaining and venting about how they're feeling and with no guidance, it's going to create an energy pit of that same thing. Whereas I think for us, we are the ones who are setting that bar of here's the energy you need to have towards your recovery, so we need to do. And others pick up on that.
Yeah.
And then they all are now in this place of a space of recovery. I think it's getting better.
Exactly. And I think that's the internet too.
And one thing I don't have a problem with it, but one thing that I see people are having problem with is that they learn early on what like mindset and energy and relationship towards the anxiety symptom and life in general they need. But then they are 1 week in and they're like, I don't have that. Like, yeah,
of course
that's
not.
why you're here.
Of course not.
It's like,
yeah,
you don't have that, but you will only get that when you start practicing just the simple steps that's been outlined for you. But you need to give time to the practice part, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about. It takes time. People are like, now I understand, now I know. So I know I need to think like this. So how do I think like this? Tell me now. It's like, the practice part, you have to do it. It's like if you have two people and one will be like, I'm going swimming, practicing swimming 3 times a week for the past 2 months. And you have the other one, they will tell you, oh, like I'm reading about swimming, 3 hours a day for the past 2 months. Like which one is more likely to drown?
Yeah. No, definitely. And like any skill in life, I always tell our mentorship people this all the time, right? Any skill in life. First time you cook a meal, you're not going to be a chef. Yeah. Right? The first time you put on a pair of, being Canadian, a pair of skates, right? You're probably going to fall on the ice. You're not going to know how to skate. Changing mindset, changing habits, changing deep-rooted things that, we just learn throughout society or through our parents or through whatever, right? It takes time for us to be aware of those things, learn how to recognize them, and then work on the change part. But once again, like, it's through that tough work, through that challenge, right, that we really grow and make that difference in our own lives. So,
I wanted to ask, right now, based on everything that's going on in our lives, what is one thing that you guys might be feeling challenging? Now, you guys are past the recovery stage and you guys are like living. Do you feel like there's certain challenges that you're having? Not anxiety. I mean, it could be anxiety related. I doubt it's going to be, but whatever it is in terms of what's challenging, what you're focusing on right now, because I think we always say that this is a process that never ends.
Yeah.
And so self-development, I would say, never ends. So what is one aspect that you feel like, you're still working on? Did you feel like you still have more work to do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's Cesar.
Yeah. Well, we talked about like what can we do to change the generation, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Time will tell. I don't know if I'm right, but me and my wife really want to, I guess, just go back to simple living, right? We don't want our kids to grow up on a screen. We want to make sure, thankfully, I can teach them, how to handle stress. So, we were really focusing on that. And I'm grateful to have a wonderful wife. So the biggest thing I think I'm struggling with right now is just making sure I'm able to do that and provide for them, so that way we can do that. And my wife doesn't have to worry about maybe bringing income in. She could we can both work as a team to make sure that our kids can grow up as strong individuals. So right now, that's really all that my stress is. So it's better than trying to think if I'm really alive right now or if I'm dreaming with DVDR, but definitely will take this stress. So
It's funny because, I was talking once again with our clients about this last week's call, and it was the same thing. We were talking about, I think perfectionism being type A. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what, played a factor in me falling into cycle. I'm very type A. I like things a certain way. And I said, hey, like, I'm night and day from where I was with that before, but I'm still working on it. Like, I'm still working on it. I'm still like you're not going to change your human nature, right? I like things. Like I like giving my all to things, and with my jobs and everything, I want to be that person, but I'm still learning of where is my balance of finding time for myself and relaxing, and then also with work. That's probably going to be a lifelong thing for me.
So it's more balance, you would say? Like,
I would say life is actually, I would say it's similar. Like I'm taking on a lot of things. Like I'm working. I work with Byby Panic. Took on a lot of hobbies, and I love my hobbies that I find joy in. So I would say I'm busier than I am now. But it's more I'm referring to, like, for example, like at work, like I really want to plan something and do something that I'm always trying to kind of go above and beyond with it.
Yeah.
And I become too like laser focused on like the little details. Even with the wedding, for example, like I was so like things would be a certain way, and just learning to like, okay, yeah, things are not going to go that way sometimes, or learning where to find that balance of where my effort, that fine line I'm talking about of like effort versus outcome. And I'm so much better, but I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Right? That's life.
Yeah. I resonate with that a lot. God, I resonate with that.
I don't know. I'm still working on everything, but not really.
No,
Life is
good.
good. Sounds funny.
That is good.
Sounds funny. No, I learned one thing, that trying to work on something would still be me trying to work on something. So I just realized that, hey, I'm just gonna live my life as it comes, and I'm gonna be very mindful of my reactions, and I correct myself whenever I see the need to. And I'm amazed, like the 4 years, like every single year, I'm different. My reactions, or rather responses, to similar situations and similar triggers are very different. The time I take to bounce back when something is like stressful and something hurts me or something makes me sad or scared, the time to bounce back from that is shorter and shorter. So I just realized, like I'm at such an age, not everything happened to me as per like society wants it, right? Like I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have family. And I was always very like blaming myself for that, or I was wondering what did wrong and all these things. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. And I made a point in my life to be like, okay, I need to do work that I feel like it's important, something that I can feel proud of doing. And the rest of the time, I just want to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So be it like taking care of myself, going to gym, just making sure I have like a healthy-ish routine and working. And then on the other side of it, just having fun, having good relationships with good people, people, that make me just, try to go, like people that make me want to go and try and do new things. Like I'm in Toronto, I was in a haunted house and we tasted so much like great food I never tasted before. And I'm just like, I think life is something that we need to make it so we find some balance and we enjoy. So yeah, I decided to just do that and correct myself every time I feel I need to. And as a result of that, I'm just not as bothered by more and more things don't bother me anymore. It's just like,
Yeah.
And Shaan?
I would say there's probably two things. I don't think I am the best at, and I've been like, I look back at like, the last year and I was like, where are some things I feel like I could improve a little bit? And I think I'm not great at when stressful situations happen, still being joyful. I've kind of feel like I've been chasing this dragon for a bit where it's like, once we get to this level, it's going to get easier. There's going to be less stress. I have only found once we get there, more stressors, more things popping up. And I was initially, without realizing, looking for those breaks of no stress, like things are a little bit stable.
you need to make these moments for
And
yourself.
so I realized that was a dragon that was never going to come.
Mhm.
And the truth is that if I look back at some of the more stressful moments, was I joyful in those? I was not. And that's very similar to what happened to me during my anxiety struggling days. And I learned to push through that with the anxiety, but I didn't push through it with this, which is kind of the same thing in a weird way, right? It's just different. It's outside, it's external. So what I am working on is just being joyful regardless of what's going on.
Unplugging, de-stressing.
Yeah, well, even if there is stressors, high stressors, not letting it affect me and still being joyful. I mean, I don't understand why external things, regardless. And I think it's a balance between ambition for me and just being in the moment. I can't rectify those two things just yet. She wants to coach me, I can tell. And so just finding the balance of like, yes, push through, like do the best you can, but there's not going to be a moment where there's no stress, man. So like just enjoy the moment for what it is. And so that's the first part. And then the second part is also learning the mechanics of the mind is good, but I kind of want to go beyond that now. I want to go a little bit more into the mystic aspect of life, what's beyond the senses, and experience that. I feel like that is one part of my life that I want to experience a little bit more. And so those are the two things I think are.
I actually didn't want to coach you. I wanted to say that you're
Good.
getting better at it. But I didn't know it is that
You've encouraged Shaan.
that before when there were like stressors and
Positive
stuff,
feedback.
stuff happening, you were very pissy at all times because this one thing was happening, and now you can like unplug. Yeah, that thing is happening. I know that, but at the same time, right now we're here. We're like having Italian, pasta, shrimp, whatever we have. So right now I'm focusing on this and I'm having fun. And you're getting better at it because you were not able to do it.
I wasn't. And it was like you're in a new situation. I was not in a situation where I was like, so many things were relying on me. So yeah, I would get irritated and upset. And then I learned that's part of it. And then it's also learning is asking, it's like, are you going to get mad every single time this happens? And then it's like, okay, just let it go. Just figure it out. As you figure out things, I feel like I'm having more confidence in my, intuition. I kind of get a feel for things kind of quicker. I learn how to trust that more.
Yeah.
But when I look at it is like, when I look at it with curiosity of like, where can I improve a little bit more? I think there is this aspect of just can you be joyful internally, regardless of what's going on externally? I don't know if I've mastered that yet. And I don't think I'm like even close. I don't even say I'm good at it yet. I've gotten better. But that for me is like my vision of progress for me as I'm working through that.
This is the same for me. I'm not master at it, no way. Like, I'm not even good at it, probably. But what I see as a huge progress is I'm aware of it.
Exactly.
Because I feel like when you're aware, there's nothing you can't do, because from then it's decision based.
Yeah.
These decisions are tough. It's tough to tell yourself like, hey, if you can't do anything about it, just don't focus on it so much. It's hard. It's the hardest decision to make. But just when you're aware of it, that's the important part. And that's where I am. I'm not good at it, but I'm aware, and I'm aware every single time.
Oh, self-awareness is so important, right? Because how do you change something if you're not aware that you're doing it, or that you're not aware of what the impacts of that on you are?
Yeah.
Right? Like Shaan, like you said, like you're now noticing that, okay, this is my reaction. I'm aware of this. So how do I change it?
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what we're doing in our program is we're getting people to be aware through knowledge, through education, through connection, through relationships, right? The habits and the behaviors and the reactions. I always say the difference between reacting and responding, right? Prior to the program, most people are reacting. I feel, I react. Immediate, right? Where we're trying to get people to recognize, okay, I can feel something. I can think something. I don't have to do the first thing that comes to my mind or that comes to me.
Yep.
I have a choice in how I respond. But it's hard. Like you said, like you've been doing it. I do it too with like my work or my habits, right? But the awareness piece and the recognition and making an effort to change, putting in that work.
But I think admitting this is also positive, because it shows people one thing. You really don't need to be perfect to fully recover.
Yep.
You just need to be aware, and you need to be able to correct.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need. It's not about like changing everything within like months or a year, so that you don't make mistakes and you don't keep sensitized. Like, you will make these mistakes. Your mind will go there. Your habits will be stronger than any new programming you're going to put in for like 2 months.
Yeah.
But if you're able to just correct and move on from it, that's all your body.
I was going to say, like, I actually need people to make mistakes. It's actually through mistakes that people grow the most.
Yeah.
So, you know, we get oftentimes people will come like, I responded incorrectly and they're so upset about it and they get all worked up, and I'm like, awesome. But you recognized it.
Yeah.
That's what matters most to me, that you've recognized it. What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
And that's life, right? Is making mistakes, recognizing it, and then changing.
I just remembered right now. I miss saying when a client would be like, "Oh, I had these symptoms." Oh no, I didn't have any symptoms. It would kind of be like, "Okay, well, it's not good. Like, we need symptoms to come." So they'd be like, "I had a horrible day today." I'd be like, "Oh, great, that's awesome. I want to hear that," because that's where they're gonna learn and grow. So that's fine.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
What do you see the next year coming to, you guys?
Personally, or with BBP?
Oh, both. Either.
Personally, I don't know. Like I think I'm at a good part of my life. I just want to enjoy family, enjoy friends. Like I said, find that fine line for myself and keep working on, okay, like here's my effort with my work and my life, but here's also my effort with just being me and finding time for myself. And honestly, like I think one thing anxiety has taught me, well, one of many things, is that life is unexpected, right? Things will happen, things will pop up, and trying to control or predict or change doesn't do anything for me, but take it as it comes. So, you know, I'm hoping to continue with what I love, which is this, which is my day job, which is my family, which is my, you know, my hobbies, and just grow, like recognize, grow, build, and see where that takes me.
Yeah. What about you?
It's the same thing. I'm just here for a ride.
No,
No, really. Like, you know, for the next year, too, however many, I have a lot of travel
Yeah, you do.
planned. It's like just half of the time I spend home, half of the time I spend away. And I'm just getting to know new places, getting to know new people. So I'm trying just to, you know, do my job, take good care of myself, and enjoy. And that's it. I don't think it needs to be deeper than that. I think, you know, I was never the type of person that would like chase like excellence or something. I never had that hard ambition. I never had like innovative ideas or anything like that. And I always thought I have to. I always thought I need to. Especially nowadays, everyone is special, like something. They are doing something special. And then I realized like not everyone has that mind. Not everyone is a visionary. Not everyone is special. And I think the best thing to do for myself is just accept that and find joy and fun in what I do the best. You know, it's like I don't have to be special to make my life special. So.
I hope the camera. Sorry, I'm hungry, guys. That was me.
We've been going off all day.
And I need to pee.
And my stomach was growling as you were talking.
I know.
I was like, oh God.
I know.
Camera, oh no.
I've heard it a few times, Shaan.
Yeah, was it? Okay,
and I'm thinking, I'm
me.
like, okay, where should I take him for lunch? Where should we go?
Yeah, I was like, I need to pee and I'm hungry and I want that photo. I'm like, my goldfish attention span is just now. I think it ran out.
Cesar, what about you?
Well, like I said, in a couple of weeks we'll have our third baby, so the next year's definitely gonna be busy for us.
Yeah,
2 kids under 2, and then a 5-year-old. But you know, being here and then talking about anxiety again, I being able to help or do my best to help others really did benefit me as well. Especially early in the program, hearing the new ones come in and being able to tell them what little I knew. Right, being so new into recovery kept me consistent. So I'd love to get back into, you know, helping, helping, because when I'm helping others, I definitely not only get, you know, I feel good about it, but it also benefited me too.
That was
Sorry.
That was me. That second was
This
me.
one was the second one.
Yeah.
The first one.
Our stomachs also have stuff to say.
No, we
The
went
next
for a
year.
coffee, and I'm like, guys, do you want to take at least like a cookie or muffin or something small to eat?
And
No,
I was like,
no,
no,
no.
I
And
said-
I'm really like, the stomach's up.
For everyone on the podcast, I mean, I guess we're just gonna keep this on here. I mean, our
Yeah.
stomachs are just growling. We're starving. I mean, this is gonna be an editing nightmare. So it's going live. Yeah, no, that's great, Cesar.
That's amazing, Cesar.
Yeah, it's really
amazing.
great. It's really
Right. I mean, definitely people who have families, right? And they think about, that's a big worry because your family comes first, your children come first, your wife comes first, right? And it's just lovely to see, like, you know, how anxiety, once again, like, yes, you felt that shame, I guess, when you had it with your son, but now seeing how you actually grew through that, and now it's actually a life lesson you'll be teaching your family.
Yeah.
Right. And think about how your children will benefit from you having that insight and that knowledge. So
Yeah. Definitely thankful for anxiety.
I think this is, you know, sometimes what I try to tell our members is the thing that, you know, because they are like, but this feels like work. Am I going to have to do this work like forever? And I'm like, well, yeah, but stop seeing it as work. Because people that never get sensitized, they never fall into anxiety cycle, they are responding to life in a certain way. And for them, it's not work, because for them it's natural. They were the lucky ones, you know, that learned that early on. So I really hope your kids will be the lucky ones.
yeah.
That, you know, this type of like responding to like stress and life and emotions and thoughts won't be work for them. It will be something natural.
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not. It's not work. Like, I think once you get it,
Now, it's
Yeah.
not work
it's
anymore
almost
for
like
me.
in nature. But it is, like, I think self-development in life, like, if we want to get better as people, there's always going to be piece of work involved.
That's exactly it. To me, it's like you can make sounding like I need to brush my teeth for the rest of my life like work.
Oh, yeah.
But we just get up and brush our teeth. Like, we don't think about it. It's not like, if we looked at it as like, I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life, anything can sound overwhelming.
Right.
But, you know, I think it's important that everyone, not just in this channel, but the world, recognizing that we're on this planet, we're going to grow. There's growth, you know, really. I don't think it's an anxiety question at that point. It's like, do I need to keep growing? And the answer is yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yes, you have to continue evolving. You have to keep growing. You can't stagnate. And so, you know, but just taking it a day at a time, you know, recognizing that, you know, we all brush our teeth. And so we all, you know, there's always going to be areas where we're growing, we're feeling stretched. And I think if we can instill that in younger ages, and have them seek that in a weird way to evolve.
Definitely.
I think we're all doing it, whether we want it or not. People want more money. They want more of this. They want more of that. These are growth elements, right? And like more physical aspects. But if you, I mean, true self-growth, in my opinion, is internal, because I think that's boundless in a weird way. And so, yeah, I think that's helpful.
It's an investment, right, that you're making in yourself and in all around you, right? Because like even for you, Cesar, like that if you're not in a good place yourself, how are you going to show up for your family?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or even for me, if I'm not in a good place, how am I going to show up for my students? Or anyone in my life. Like I want to be who I want to be. I want to be in a good place. So yeah, it's just that.
Right. Yeah. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different. It was a little bit more fun. I've made the best relationships in my life from this.
This is the first time we're all together.
First time we're all together.
The OGs.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true OGs.
History.
We are the original.
Sorry, Shiv.
Byby. Yeah. Shiv came after. And then we got the new generation, like Shiv and Heather came together, and then now Jeff and Shubham. But yeah, we were the originals. This was like an idea to me. Byby Panic was almost like this idea between a bunch of friends, and we're doing something very serious.
I just don't know if I count as OG or if it's more like you three.
No, I would say
no. You came shortly after us.
Yeah.
So I think this is the original group. This is
the first time the original group is physically together in one room.
spot. Yeah.
No Zoom screen.
No Zoom screen.
And it's amazing with all of our busy lives that we're able to make it. And
like how far I had to come to.
I know. Mirka definitely was a furthest traveled guide.
But in a weird way, it was also kind of effortless. We all were just like, yeah, we'll be there. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And, it was so easy. Like, yeah, but if you would ask me 5 years ago, I would be like, hell nah, you bring the wedding to me. My living room, please.
So it's been an amazing journey. And, I hope you guys, stay involved in Byby Panic still in whatever capacity. I think it's going to get wilder. I hope, it's just been great. I don't know. I get a little emotional on these kinds of things, so I'm going to stop it there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.